Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this video in which we will look at using the sine and cosine rules. So both of these are used to find unknown sides or angles in non-right angled triangles. Remember, in a right angled triangle, we just use SOHCAHTOA. Here we're in non-right angled triangles. So the sine rule and cosine rule are complementary. That's why we learn them both. You can use the sine rule when you can't use the cosine rule and vice versa. So make sure you learn this table which has all of the formula in blue, but in black it tells you when to use them. So for example, you use the cosine rule to find a side when you have two sides and the angle between those two sides. You use the sine rule to find an angle when you have a side angle pair and another side. So make sure you use it. For example, in each of these three examples below that I'm going to do, you can only use one of these four. You'll need to decide which. So in non-right angled triangles, we label our sides and angles slightly differently. We don't call them opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. Instead, we label the sides A, B, and C. It doesn't matter which you call A, which you call B, which you call C, as long as side A is opposite angle A, side B is opposite angle B, and side C is opposite angle C. We use capital letters to name angles and small letters to name sides. All right, let's look at each of these three examples, starting with the blue triangle. So here I want to find x, I want to find a side. Let's look at what information I have. I have two sides and the angle between. So my table tells me I need to use the cosine rule. So the cosine rule is this formula here. So we've just replaced c with x. So the formula is c squared, well c is now x, c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. So when you're using the cosine rule to find the side, the angle here has to be the angle opposite the side you're trying to find. These two are opposite each other. So putting that on our calculator, we get x squared is about 159.2. Of course, that's way too big to be the side. Just make sure you remember to square root your answer. So we have x is the square root of this, which is about 12.6 units. All right, let's look at this red triangle now. So again, we're trying to find a side. So what do we have? Well, we have two angles and a side. We have a side angle pair and another angle. So looking at our table, we need to use the sine rule. We can't use the cosine rule here because we don't have two sides. So setting up our equation, we have a over sine A equals b over sine B. Remember, this angle here, 70, needs to be the one opposite the side we're trying to face. We put 60 down here because it's opposite 7. It has to be a side over its opposite angle. So to solve this equation, to get x by itself, we just times each side by sine 70 because it's just a number. So x equals 7 sine 70 over sine 60. So putting this on our calculator, making sure we're in degrees mode, we get 7.6 units. So in a previous video, I told you that in any triangle, largest angle is always opposite longest side, the smallest angle is always opposite the shortest side. We can use that rule to see if we're on the right track. So in both of these cases, I was finding a side. So because 110 has to be the largest angle in this triangle, the answer I get needs to be larger than 10 and 5, which it was, so I know I'm on the right track. Over here, because x is opposite a larger angle, 70 is larger than 60, the answer I get for x must be more than 7, which I did, so I know I'm on the right track. All right, let's look at this question here. Now we're finding an angle. So what information do we have? We have the length of all three sides. So we're going to use the cosine rule for finding an angle. Note this formula here is the same as this, except I rearranged this to make C the subject. And then I get this formula here. So theta is like our C and it's equal to cos inverse. Now, A and B, it doesn't matter which you call A and B, they're the two sides touching the angle, 9 and 13. So theta is cos inverse of A squared plus B squared. The one you're subtracting is the side opposite the angle you're trying to find, and that's the side that doesn't appear on the bottom. It's 2 times A times B. So putting that on our calculator, making sure we're in degrees mode, we get about 130 degrees. And that makes sense because this angle is opposite the longest side. This must be the largest angle in the triangle. So we'd expect 130 degrees would definitely be the largest angle in a triangle. If we got an answer like 30 degrees, we know we would have done something wrong. So in this video, I haven't gone through using the sine rule to find an angle because it turns out there are two possible solutions, and I'll do that in a subsequent video. But thank you so much for tuning into this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.